YouTube and Facebook. I appreciate you for tuning in. In this episode, we will be discussing building personal and professional accountability. I'll be joined by life coach and author, Coach Lee. She will be sharing the strategies will be useful in helping us to become more accountable. Before we dive into the discussion, I am inviting you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Fionia and Friends. Your comments and questions on YouTube can be shown on screen. Sorry, Facebook viewers, we don't have that facility for you. Thankful Thursdays is sponsored by Ionia Distributors LLC, the company that distributes my stainless steel barware sets and my motivational t-shirts featuring the title of my book, It Will Be Long But Not Forever. Now, let's get into it. Building personal and professional accountability. Coach Lee, thanks so much for joining and be a part of this session. Your time is precious because you wear multiple hats. I introduce you as author and life coach, but you're also an attorney. To excel in these various job roles and function must require tremendous discipline and accountability. Let's start there. What is accountability?
First, thank you for having me. When I think about
You're welcome.
accountability, I think about it as what is it that you want to do? And more so than what is it that you want to do, who is it that you're doing it for? Because there are different types of accountability. There can be personal accountability, professional accountability. And so when I look at accountability, I look at it as who is it that you're doing this thing for? Who is it that is making it to where I want to show up? I want to do this thing. Because professional accountability might be looking at your job or your career or your work. Personal accountability is looking at yourself. And so accountability can be looked at and defined in different ways, but ultimately accountability comes back to who is holding you accountable. And I know I'm using the definition to answer it, but accountability ultimately comes back to who is it and why is it that you're doing the thing that you're doing and what is holding you to that. And so that's how I would define accountability.
And what is the difference between personal and professional accountability?
I think when you look at accountability, you can even define it beyond that. You can go self accountability, which is how are you holding yourself accountable to the things that you say that you want to do. Personal accountability can be similar to self accountability, but it also is more about those personal aspects that are direct to you. Because self accountability can apply in the same way that personal accountability can, but then professional accountability might be your boss, your coworkers, the standard that your job or your career is holding you to. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, those all come back to the same thing. What is the reason behind the thing that you're doing, and what is keeping you accountable or making you want to continue to show up and be in that space and to do that thing? So that's kind of how I would define the difference between the two or the three.
Oftentimes we struggle with holding ourselves accountable. Why do we oftentimes struggle so much?
Because we're more concerned about what other people think. We struggle with holding ourselves accountable because we're more concerned about others. How often is it that you're willing to ask someone to do something or tell someone you're going to do something? And even if you don't want to do it, you still show up and do it because you said you were going to. But then on the flip side, how often do you tell yourself that you're going to do this? I'm going to start working out next week. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to drink my water. I'm
Yes,
going to go to bed
that's
earlier.
right.
But yet and still you don't do it. So we struggle with accountability because the short answer, you don't value yourself as much as you value the opinions of other people. And we need to
Wow.
change that.
We need to change that. And on that note, you're tuned into Thankful Thursday. I am your host, Fionia Salmon. In this episode, we're discussing building personal and professional accountability with life coach and also author, Coach Lee. Thankful Thursday is sponsored by Ionia Distributors LLC, which distribute my stainless steel barware sets and also my motivational t-shirts featuring the title of my book, It Will Be Long But Not Forever. So thank you so much again. And as I said, go ahead and get a personal copy, or you could purchase it for a loved one if you wish. I would really appreciate that. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, Fionia and Friends, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you already subscribed, I want you to go ahead and share out all of this content above and beyond. So thank you so much. I'm saying thank you in advance for that. Now, let's get back to building personal and professional accountability with life coach and author, Coach Lee. Coach Lee, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about accountability, especially in the workplace?
I would say that they think they don't need it. I think one of the biggest misconceptions would be that they don't need accountability, that they know everything. And so because you know everything, you don't need anyone to check you and checking you doesn't have to be a negative thing. People can check you in a positive way, like, hey, I saw the way you did that. I know you can do better than that. And that's not to say that what you did wasn't good, but maybe they've seen you. Like for me, I'm a criminal defense attorney. So there are times where I've argued or prepared for things and I know that I did it, let's say at the last minute, and I didn't put my all into it. I might have still won, or I might have lost. And even at the time where that self accountability comes in, where I know for myself that I could have done better, but to be able to have coworkers, your boss, or people, mentors, mentees who can look to you and who can check you and essentially say, hey, you can do better than that. Or even to check you and say, you did a great job. I can see that you're working on this. I can see that you're trying. And so one of the biggest misconceptions I would say would be that you don't need accountability. You need accountability in the workplace. We don't need micromanaging. That's two different things. We don't need the micromanaging of nitpicking everything that I do and that nothing I can do is good enough. But what we do need is accountability. We do need someone to help us to stretch, to grow, to get out of that comfort zone and to show up to our fullest potential, even as that potential grows and expands. And even understanding that there are times where that accountability is going to say, hey, I know this is a last minute thing, but you did the best you could with what you had given the time frame. And so I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you don't need accountability in the workplace, but the reality is that you do.
Me? Are you hearing me? Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that. I'm having some connection issue. So thank you so much, Coach Lee, for dive into how can we be accountable in the workplace. And you mentioned micromanaging, and we will be talking further about that further down in the discussion. But in your experience, what are the top three habits or mindset that help someone become more accountable in their day-to-day life?
Ooh,
Oh,
I would
mhm.
say the top, okay. You said habits or mindsets. I'm gonna try to split. I'm
Habits
gonna
or
give
mindset.
one and one, or I guess two and
Yes.
one. So mindset is the belief that you can do it. Because a phrase that I like to say is if you change your perspective, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Perspective is how you look at things. Mindset is how you think about things. And your life is ultimately what you show up and what you do. So if you change how you look at accountability, if you change your thoughts around accountability, then your feelings and your belief in accountability is going to change. So one mindset shift that you need to have is that the belief or the thought pattern that accountability is good or bad. So if you believe that accountability is all bad, you need to change that mindset and know that accountability is good. That's self-accountability, personal, professional, whatever. Accountability is good. One habit that would help you to become more accountable, productivity and accountability coach, I love a good list. So are you doing a brain dump and are you making a to-do list? So I can guess those can be two habits because people might not realize that brain dumps and to-do lists are different. And so a brain dump for me is taking anything that's in my head and getting it on paper. It could relate to work. It could relate to business. It could relate to my personal life. It could be a mix or a combination of all three. And so for me, I have to get these things out of my head because we get so stuck in trying to keep the thoughts in our head that we don't really make progress with them. And what I mean by that is, how often do you walk into another room saying, like, when I get here, I'm not going to forget this. I'm not going to forget this. I'm not going to forget this. And you get there and you forgot the very thing that you said that you wasn't going to forget. And so we keep so many things in our head because we have so many thoughts. There's so many things that we have to do, that we have to go through, that we have to grow through, that it often causes us to get stuck in analysis paralysis. And so for me, a brain dump is all about clearing that clutter. And then the second habit would be the to-do list. I take that brain dump and I transform it into the things that I need to do. And so by me having this to-do list, it keeps me accountable because when the day gets busy, when the day gets away from me, I'm able to ultimately go back to that list and say, what is it that I need to do? Whether that be today, this week, this month, what is it that I need to do? And so if I were to give 3, that would be my 3. Number 1 would be mindset, would be shifting your mindset and your thoughts around accountability. And then the 2 habits would be starting to do a brain dump to clear your head. I suggest you do it at least once a week. And then a to-do list. I suggest making a to-do list, honestly, every day. But if you want to make a to-do list for the week and then work through it based off that brain dump, that. So those would be the 3 things I would say in terms of helping you to garner and have and be more accountable in your day-to-day life.
All right, Coach Lee, you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it appears that Fionia is having some trouble with her connectivity. And let me just say for the visitors, for the viewers, pardon me, this is Garth. I'm the producer. We're all doing this online. So it depends heavily on a very stable internet connection. But let me see if I can carry it on while Fionia tries to reconnect. I like that idea of the brain dump, Coach Lee. Just kind of walk us through what that looks like because you've got so much on your mind. Um, can you you might need a little bit of a strategy to write down everything, to document everything. Do you use written notes? Do you use voice notes? Do you use video notes to yourself? A combination of all the above. What would you recommend?
Make it messy. Make it messy. So for me, I'm telling you to get out a piece of paper and go pen to paper and get it out of your head and on paper. This isn't a time to worry about your spelling, the grammar. Get it out of your head and on the paper. I literally like to take, I got scratch paper around here. Like, I'll take scratch paper. I don't need a pretty notebook for it. It's literally like, give me some paper and let me get this out. People often say that I don't have that many things that I'm thinking about. Number 1, you a lie. No offense. Don't mean to call y'all liars. But no, you have so many thoughts in your head. And so people who are new to brain dumps, I often tell them to set a timer. Set a timer for 10 minutes, 15 if you're feeling feisty, and just write. And after about 5 minutes, you're going to feel like, I wrote it all down. I don't have anything left. Read through the list. And as you read through that list, it's going to trigger you for new things. Keep going. And literally, like I said, it can pertain to any area of your life. And when you're doing this brain dump, you're not trying to focus on things that are due or that you need to do today, tomorrow. Yes, write those things down. But if something comes to you that is like a 6-month from now problem, like your car, you have to renew your insurance. If every 6 months, you have to renew your insurance. Your tag on your car, you have to renew that every year. There are things that we have to do that aren't necessarily monthly things or weekly things, but you might just randomly be doing something else and that'll trigger a memory about something that is 3-4 months down the line. Write that down too, because you want to make sure you have a calendar reminder ultimately to do that thing. And so for me, when it comes to a brain dump, the messier the better. I don't suggest. Ultimately, it's up to you, because for me, the reason I do coaching and specifically one-on-one coaching is because it's about finding what it is that works for you. I don't suggest that you do it as a voice note, or that you do it as I think you said something about digital, or as a video note, because you want it to be something that's accessible. If you do it as a voice note, just say you just made a voice note that's 4 minutes long. Now you got to go listen back to that thing that's 4 minutes to most likely write it down to turn it into a to-do list. So I don't suggest you do it like as a voice note or a video note or any type of digital thing like that, because oftentimes what happens with that is that we start getting worried about the perfection, which is why I said don't worry about your grammar, don't worry about your spelling, don't worry about the neatness. If y'all can see some of my brain dumps, you'll be like, girl, how do you even know what that say? Number one, because I pretty immediately turn that brain dump into a to-do list. But start with just getting it out of your head. The messier, the better, because the thoughts in your head, they're not neat and organized, which is why you'll go from I need to cut the grass to I wish I had some ice cream. Like the most random things are gonna come to you that in no way
That's right.
relate to each other.
That's right. That is so right. Having that list, it's always your go to. Whether it's 6 months down the road or 2 years, you can always go back to your notes. And thank
Exactly.
you so much for that strategy. It will definitely work, and I will definitely try to practice that as well too. You're tuning into Thankful Thursday. I am your host, Fionia Salmon. And in this episode, we're discussing building personal and professional accountability with life coach and author, Coach Lee. Thankful Thursday is sponsored by Fionia Distributors LLC, which distribute my stainless steel barware sets and also my motivational t-shirt featuring my title of my book, It Will Be Long But Not Forever. Be sure to get yours and purchase a gift as well for a loved one. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Fionia and Friends. If you're already subscribed, I want you to go ahead and share out the content. Go above and beyond for your girl, okay? Let me know. And also, make sure to text me on my socials and let me know who you have shared it with. Now, let's get back to building personal and professional accountability with life coach and author, Coach Lee. When someone realizes that they have dropped the ball, because oftentimes we all drop the ball at work or in our personal life, what's the best way to bounce back and rebuild that sense of trust?
So for the bounce back, that brain that we was talking about and that to-do list, for me, that's how I
Yes.
get back. When I feel like I've dropped the ball, for me, typically it's not a drop the ball moment. And I'm not saying that I don't drop the ball. For me, it's typically I've had to pivot and adjust, and now I'm starting to feel overwhelmed because the plan that I made for the week isn't planning. The week isn't weeking like I planned it. And so I start to
Yes.
feel overwhelmed because I'm like, well, I had these things that I needed to do that may or may not have had deadlines. How can I pivot? How can I adjust? I do a new brain dump. I reassess the priorities. And so when you come to, I guess if you want to talk about the building trust aspect, give yourself those easy
Yes.
wins. So I'm the type of person who, even if I did the thing, I might write it down just to cross it back off because I did it and I want credit for it for myself. Because those wins are how you start to build that momentum and that
Amen.
motivation to show
Yes.
yourself that you can do it. Because so often we get discouraged when it comes to working on our productivity, growing and stretching as a person and as an individual. We often feel this way because we're trying to do the most. We're putting big tasks on the list. Not saying that you don't have to accomplish big tasks, but when it comes to these bigger tasks, are we really breaking them down into their smaller parts? And so, for example, let's say you want to say, I need to build a table. Do you have the materials for the table? Do you know what you want the table to look like? So start breaking it down, like design table, shop for supplies, prep I don't know how to build a table, but
The
prep the supplies.
workstation.
There we go. Prep the wood station, get your supplies, start building it,
Yes.
test it. We have to break things down because if you put this big task on your list, build table, but you don't have all the supplies, you're going to feel overwhelmed before you even get started. And so oftentimes the reason we can't build that trust, or even we feel like we dropped the ball, is because we went with the big project and we didn't break it down to the smallest parts. And so that's
Stages.
where turning that brain dump into a to-do list comes into play. And so if you feel like, or you realize that, ooh, I dropped the ball, give yourself those small wins. If you did some stuff earlier today and you didn't write it down just so you can cross it off. Because sometimes we get to the end of the day and we're like, I didn't do nothing. And let's be real, you didn't go through a whole day and do nothing. You might not have did those things on the list, but it might be because other things popped up that were priorities and you had to make pivots and adjustments. Give yourself credit for that. Show yourself those wins so that you build trust in yourself that I can get things done. I can be productive. This is possible for me, because you're able to look down and see, I got these things done. So that's how it would help you to build that trust and get back on it, even if you feel like you've fallen off.
And thank you so much for that. And it's okay to actually give yourself grace. Oftentimes we're so hard on ourselves. But how can you share a real can you share a real life success story, maybe of a client or even yourself, where accountability transformed the situation either personally or professionally?
Of where accountability transformed a situation. Ooh.
Yes.
Having somebody check on you. For a lot of my clients, they're successful. So it's not like they can't do it. They're successful women, most of them. Not saying that I can't work with men, but they're often successful women. Like, my thing is, I help a lot of women who are in corporate to find that hidden time and to prioritize themselves as well as their goals and all of that. And so often what happens is that you know that you want these things, but you get so focused potentially on the career aspect that you start neglecting home and your personal life. And so I can think of two success stories. One's a client that I just finished working with, and one's a client that I worked with a couple years ago. Both of them were busy attorneys. They were working late, bringing work home. One was working literally like 7 days a week, not taking vacation, like working nonstop. One has two small kids, and she was bringing work home. And sometimes her son would be like, Mommy, you're working again? And so for both of them, ultimately what they were looking to create was work-life balance. And so for them, they felt that they needed to work a little bit longer, like, not stop at 5, but also not necessarily bring work home. So essentially we worked to create a schedule to where we're either going to design days that you're going to work late and they're going to be on the calendar so you know what this is. And we're going to find ways for you to start bringing work home. For both of them, one client, it was like we built in her schedule for her to stay an extra hour and a half after work. After the first week, she was like, girl, I beat my secretary going home. I left at 4:45. And I'm like,
Wow.
but what about the schedule? I'm like, well, what did you do when you got home? I had dinner with my wife. We had dinner together. This weekend we went out and did these things. So we built a schedule that said, here's when you can work late. And she was like, I'm going to one up that schedule. I'm not even going to work late. I'm not even bringing work home. And then the other client that I was referring to that has the two small kids, we built days in for her to work late, or for her to come in early, because she had the support of her husband, who was like, if you going in early or staying a little bit late is going to mean you're not bringing work home or working on the weekends, do it. And so we created and built the schedule for her to be able to do that. And she ended up adjusting the schedule a little bit to where she was like, I didn't stay late. And I'm like, well, did you bring work home? And she was like, no, I didn't, because she started potty training her son. But she was able to show up and potty train her son. So she sacrificed working late to go home and potty train, but she also didn't bring work home. And it was like, okay, so where are you on your schedule? She's like, I'm done for the week. And it was like Wednesday. She's like, there's more things that I want to do, but I went home on time. I got to, help with potty training, and I was able to do this. And so sometimes all you need is a person to ask you, did you do it? And oftentimes that's why I'm a productivity and accountability coach, because I know that I need accountability. For me, saying that I'm going to do something is often the accountability that I need. Like, I literally post my to-do list every Saturday or every Sunday on in my Instagram stories so that people see what it is that I'm working on. And then at the end of the week, I'm supposed to post the completed one. I'm going to be honest, y'all, I haven't posted in a couple weeks. But that's what real life accountability looks like. That's real life success stories of how having that accountability can get you to the place of having work-life balance. making change, making progress, you being able to set goals that are more than just career goals. Yes, your career is important, but you don't want to get so busy working that you forget to live. You want to be able to do both. And that's what I try to help my clients do.
That's great. That's really great because time is really vital in anyone's life. And let's go back into the workplace. How can leaders foster a culture of accountability without micromanaging or creating fear among their teams?
I think it involves collaboration,
Mhm.
because if you don't know the goals of on both ends, if I as the employee don't know the goals of my boss, my company that I'm working for, how could I know if I'm in alignment? Because potentially you have goals that I never want to reach, and that might be my cue that it's time for me to leave. But on the flip side, if you as my boss or my manager don't know my goals, how are you going to potentially put me in positions to win? So
That's
as an
right.
attorney, we recently had new management take over, with my firm. I'm a government attorney, so elected officials. And so one thing that she did was she had individual meetings with each of us. And essentially she kind of asked, like, what do you do outside of work? And she knew I was a coach already from when I had known her previously. But she was like, I know you do this. Like, what else do you do for fun? But also, like, what do you want to do within the office? Like, I know you're in this spot. Do you like this spot? Do you want to keep doing this? Like, talk to me. And so I know one of my coworkers, when she was preparing for her meeting, she was like, I have this vision of how I can do this and this, and I want to do this. And I might well talk to her about it. Like, share your goals, because maybe you have a way that you can bridge the gap between where you
That's
are and
right.
where you want to do. And so I think having that open conversation, that open dialogue, and being able to create collaborative experiences that allow you to check in to see, these are the things that I say that I want. Is there a way that I can get there within this company? And
Hmm.
knowing that these are the things that I want, and these are, your values, your mission, your goals, am I in alignment with that? So I think it really comes down to collaboration and being willing to have that collaborative experience. Yes, there are going to be times that you might have to, well, I don't even want to call it micromanage. There are going to be times you might have to hold me accountable, which might mean, hey, you said you wanted this, but the work ethic that you've been putting in lately doesn't really show the caliber of a person who wants that. So do you still want that? Because we're allowed to change our mind, because things might have happened. Maybe didn't have kids, or maybe you had kids, and so your goal changed because now you have to put a little bit more time or attention there, or things like that. So I think creating and fostering a community and having that ability to collaborate in the process is a good way to really have that culture of accountability without that micromanaging.
That's right. And if our listeners can start doing just one thing today to be more accountable and to be more productive, what would you recommend for them to start doing? Because I know that they want to advance in their professional lives and also in their personal lives. What would you recommend them to do? One
I mean,
thing.
besides book a call with me so I can help you do it, but choose one thing that you want to do and start there. Maybe it's making a brain dump. Maybe it's making a to-do
Mm,
list. Maybe it's reaching out for
yeah.
support and getting you a coach that's going to help guide you along that process and help you create a game plan. Start. Whatever it is that you say that you want to do, start. Take the first step. You're never going to get to where it is you want to be if you never start.
Wow, that's powerful. So the main thing, make sure you start. Holding yourself accountable, you will see results like you being more productive. Before we get into productivity, I do have a question to ask about productivity. But thank you all for tuning in to Thankful Thursday. I am your host, Fionia Salmon. In this episode, we're discussing building personal and professional accountability with life coach Coach Lee. She's also an author. Thankful Thursday is sponsored by Ionia Distributors LLC, which distribute my stainless steel barware sets and also my motivational t-shirts that features the title of my book, It will be long, but not forever. So please go ahead and get your copy. And also, while you're at it, get a copy for a loved one as well. Thank you so much for your support. Be sure to also tune in on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube right now, go ahead, tap that subscribe button. And also, while you're at it, turn on your notification that every time we go live on these episodes, you will get your notification that we're also live. And also, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and follow me if you haven't followed me yet. And thank you so much for everything. Now, let's get back into the discussion of building personal and professional accountability with life coach and author, Coach Lee. Coach Lee, let's get into a little bit. Look at how accountability have helped you professionally because you wear so many different hats. What sparked your passion for helping people build accountability in their lives? And how does that journey shape your work as coach and author?
Who? Um, what sparked my passion for helping others? Other
Yes,
people.
other
Other
people.
people. And by that, I mean, I didn't realize that it was something that people struggle with. I didn't realize that people didn't understand how to like reverse engineer stuff, how to make a schedule, how to create work life balance and things like that. But people for years were telling me, like, you're motivating, you're encouraging, you should be a life coach. And I'm like, I'm an attorney. I don't have time for that. What are y'all talking about? And then the pandemic happened.
Wow.
And thankfully, I didn't lose my job. But clearly, we're not going to, well, we were going to court because people were still being arrested. We had court, but we weren't doing trials. Courts were much more limited because of the pandemic. They were trying to keep people out of jails as much as possible. You know, obviously, certain charges you kind of got to stay, but they were doing a lot more work to like reduce bonds and things like that to allow people to try to get out so that they wouldn't be in this contained space. Um, and so during the pandemic, literally, I made it about a week, y'all. The thoughts started coming back to me. People telling me, you're motivating, you're encouraging, you should be a life coach. And then, you know, the algorithm, Facebook and Instagram, the ads started serving me up like, you should be a life coach, learn more about
Wow.
coaching. So I was signing up for all these different like free webinars about coaching to figure out like, what is coaching? Like I did
That's right.
Google, so the algorithm was algorithming. And so I started taking some of the free webinars to figure out like, what is it? Do I really want to do this? And I'm the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. And no, you don't need training or certification to be a coach or to be a life coach. But I'm that type of person that I want to make sure that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And
That's
so I
right.
found the program that I ultimately went through to get certified to become the master life coach that I am. And I made it halfway through the first video, which was all of 5 minutes long. And I was like, oh, I get it now. I
Mhm.
understand why people say that I should be a coach. And from then on, it was no turning back. So I started, you know, reaching out to a few of my friends who I had, I guess, unofficially coached in the past, who I had helped them with some things that was like, hey, I'm trying to be a coach. I'm gonna be a coach. I know I've helped you with this in the past. Can you test my coaching program essentially? I'll coach you for free. You tell me if I'm doing good, what I should change, are the calls the right length, how often we're meeting, things like that. And so I did that, and the rest is history. And so that helped me. And even in that process and in that journey, like I was on social media, like, I need y'all to keep me accountable. I'm thinking I'm going to do something scary. And so like I was kind of talking about it in my stories to kind of like bring them along on the process as well. And so once I was the life coach, for some reason I didn't really like the title life coach because I'm like, yes, productivity does affect your whole life. But I was like, okay, I know accountability, because at first I was like life and accountability coach, because I knew for me accountability was a big thing. But then ultimately I figured out, okay, they're struggling with time. They're trying to figure out how I quote unquote do it all. They're struggling with productivity. They're struggling with how to get it done. And so that's where I became productivity and accountability coach. And so that journey of becoming this coach has shaped literally what I do. Like, I started this business because of other people. And that doesn't mean that I don't love what I do. I do. And a phrase that I like to say as well is that I'm inspired to impact. I do this all to make an impact in the lives of others. I want anyone or everyone who comes into contact with me to be impacted in some way, to see that productivity isn't hard. productivity isn't complicated. You've been making it harder than it is. And I want to show you how to simplify productivity, because here's the thing. We do things all the time. You are productive. You're getting things. So when you say I can't be productive, you do things all the time. Are you doing the right things? And so for me, I would say that that journey, that evolution, that realization has really shaped my work is what I do as a coach. In terms of as an author, that was who you think becoming a coach was on accident. Becoming an author was even more so on accident. And
Wow.
it's funny because I wrote the book in a month. I wrote the book, I believe it was the year I started coaching, like officially. Like my LLC became official 2021. So like I was doing all the work, like pandemic happened March 2020. So that whole time I was kind of like going through my coaching program, getting my website set up, getting all those things together. And so I made my LLC effective 1/1/2021. And so then, that's why I do my launch post and all of that. And there's this thing called, I think it's called like nano writes or something like that. One of my friends was talking about it that I saw on Instagram, where basically you write like 1,500 words a day during the month of November. I wrote my book during the month of November by following nano writes. Like, okay, well, every day I'm going to write 1,500 words. Here we go. Here we go. And so I did that, and I finished the book, and then I found a person to help me self-publish it, to do the cover art and all of that stuff. And like her contract said that this was like a 6-month process. It wasn't. Not for me, at least. I can't speak for other people. And I'm not saying that in a bash or a negative way on her or any way, shape, or form, because I wrote the book and I just wrote it and I never looked at it again. Like I gave it to her when she was like, it's time for edits. Like, I read it and then I was like, well, I wrote some good stuff in here. But my book was officially released almost a year ago this month. Like this time last year, I was working on the launch. So my book came out in 2024, but I wrote it in 2021. But going through that editing process and going through the process of the book, I realized that I put my coaching framework in that book when I didn't know what I was doing.
Wow.
And so looking back, like the Lee method, like the book is called Lee's Laws of Productivity. In it, I talk about three frameworks or 3 steps that you use to get things done: look, examine, and execute. So the book breaks it down. It goes into it. It dives into it. All of that is in there and it's all put together. But when I wrote the book, it was like a set it and forget it. I never went back to it. I never looked at it again until I was going through the editing process. And so I was forced to pick it up to check the edits and stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute. I have a framework for my coaching program, for the things that I talk about, for the things that I do. And when I was the most inexperienced is when I had it, because that was coming straight from the heart. Before, starting to work with coaches and them tell you, you got to do this, you need to do that. When I was raw and unfiltered and I didn't know what I was doing, I had it. And so when I think about the passion and how that shaped it, that book was pure passion. I never wanted to be an author. I never wanted to write a book. But yet here I am.
That's awesome. It seems like you live and breathe accountability and productivity. But before we dive into your book, which is the Lee's Law of Productivity, let's talk about productivity for a second. How does accountability tie into getting more done without burning out?
I think when we look at like the success stories that we were talking about, the two
Yes.
ladies, that's it. Because knowing that oftentimes as women, especially, we play so many roles in life that we're so used to doing for other people that it's rare that we have someone do for us or even check for us or check on us. And so as a coach, I'm that person who's checking on you, checking for you, and checking you sometimes if you're not doing what you need to do. And so having that accountability of knowing that I'm going to ask is often that kick in the butt that they need to get it done. Because sometimes, like when we do our check-ins, so they get like one call a week, and then halfway through the week, we normally do like a text check-in to see how are the things going that you said that you were going to do. And so plenty of clients have told me, I did this just because I knew you were going to ask. And I'm like, well, how do you feel now that you did it? I feel better about it. So like you feel better that you did it, but you also did it because you know that on this day, Coach Lee is going to text me or going to ask me, or when we do this weekly call, I'm going to have to explain to her why I didn't do the thing I said I was going to do. So for some people, just knowing that a person is actually checking on them or checking for them, that someone actually cares that you got done this thing, because it's not like you just put the thing on the list because it's not important. You put it on there because it's important. And especially with the clients that I work with, like, y'all are professionals. These things can make a difference. Like, hey, some of them are criminal defense attorneys as well. Like, these are life and death decisions that you're potentially making.
Mhm.
So the work that we do as attorneys, not saying that other people's work isn't important as well, but like, those who ladies were attorneys, but the work that my clients do is important. The work that anyone who's listening to this does is important. I don't care if you're a trash person. The work you do is important, because I want my
That's
trash
right.
picked up. I don't want my house to
That's
be
it.
stank with trash that's just piling up because no one came and got it.
That's
Anything
right.
that you do is important. And if you do it with the integrity and with the feeling and the thought that what you do matters, you'll really be able to see that what you do matters. And so that will hopefully make you want to be more accountable to show up and to do the work and to do it with integrity and to do it in a way that helps shape you and shape the lives of others, but without burnout. Because we don't want you to just go through
Mhm.
life hustling and grinding. I'm not anti hard work, but I'm very much anti hustle and grind. I'm not afraid of working hard and doing the work, but I'm not going to hustle my way to the top. I'm not going to grind my way to the top. One thing I like is sleep. Y'all might not believe it because I say I wake up at 2:30 in the morning, but I go to bed at 8:30ish. So I do value my sleep. I do love my sleep. And one thing that I'm not going to give up is my sleep. I might miss a meal because I got busy working, but what I ain't going to do is miss sleep. I will put down a project quick, fast, and in a hurry because I'm tired. I'm not
Wow.
anti hard work, but I'm anti hustle and grind. And that's where the burnout comes from, hustling and grinding.
Thank you so much for that. And I just want to say to listeners that work smart, not harder. And as Coach Lee says, make sure you get enough sleep. Proper rest is very, very important so that you're not burnt out. So, your book, let's talk about your book a little bit. It's called Lee's Law of Productivity. And I want you to share one tip or one key tip from your book that will help listeners to apply to their personal life or to their professional life from one tip from your book.
Well, the laws are 3 laws. And if we're gonna go, I'm gonna use the last law, which y'all gonna be like, but how are we gonna use the last one? I don't even know what the first 1 and 2 is. Earlier, we were talking about like what would be one thing that I would tell you if you wanted to be more accountable and to just start doing something. How I said, just start. The last law is
Yes.
execute. It's about doing.
Execute. Mm.
So, what do you need to do? I'll give you the words for the 3 laws, but you got to get the book and you got to dive in and coaching to really find out what it means, because it's 3 simple words: look, examine, and execute. And people are like,
Look,
how are those 3 words
examine.
going to change the game on productivity? Because you've been overcomplicating productivity. So now it's time to simplify. And if you really want to simplify it, you got to execute. You got to do. So what are you going to
Wow.
show up and what are you going to do?
Wow, that's awesome. And that's Lee's. It means look,
Examine
execute, examine, and
and
execute.
execute.
Lee. So don't forget that and make sure to get a copy of our book. And it is available on Amazon. And it's called Lee's Law of Productivity. And on that note, thank you so much again. Thank you for tuning in. And also, Coach Lee, thank you for your wisdom, your time. You are such an amazing guest. You were down to earth, you get to it. And I really, really appreciate you. And I can't wait to have you back. So, this is where we close Thankful Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. Remember now, Thankful Thursday is here every second and fourth Thursday for each month at 7 p.m. So don't forget to share with your family and your friends, even on social media. Shout it out loud. Thankful Thursday is every second and fourth Thursday of each month. And as always, please, 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 please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That is Fionia and Friends. And be sure to get my stainless steel barware set. Now that it's summer, make sure you become the best mixology that you can be with my stainless steel barware set. And don't forget to get your t-shirt that I'm wearing. It will be long, but not forever, featuring the title of my book, and they are also available on Amazon. In the meantime, I'll be back in 2 weeks with another intriguing Thankful Thursday episode. Watch for all my social media to see who my next guest will be. And until then, I am your host, Fionia Salmon. See you next time. Bye.
Okay, guys, you did good. I don't. Why has Fiona just jumped off so quickly?
It still say we live. We still live.